Well, first of all, a pleasure to be here in Klaipėda. It's only my second time here. I'm from Holland, so a long way from home. And yeah, I come from an offshore wind port. You heard the port director saying one of the new challenges is perhaps become an offshore wind port. Well, I am from Groningen Seaports, that's my employee. And we have two ports, one is Delfzijl and the other one is Eemshaven. And Eemshaven is an offshore wind and energy port. Not the biggest one, that is Esbjerg in Denmark. And we are, so to say, a runner-up. You see a picture and you see it's really energy because there's a coal-fired power plant on the left-hand side. There's a wind turbine, there's an offshore service vessel, there's an oil rig, you see the legs of it, you see installation vessels. So it's really an energy port. And you see in the port we have 8,000 megawatts, which is 8 gigawatts. That's 1/3 of the Dutch electricity is coming from Eemshaven. And that's interesting because the Dutch grids, we also heard about the challenges coming up here in this whole new industry, is amongst others the grids. And the grid capacity in Holland is 6.5 gigawatt. So 1.5 gigawatt is also consumed in the port. And in this case, there are a lot of data centers consuming a lot of energy. And there's also a fossil-fueled, still fossil-fueled, chemical cluster in Delfzijl, in the other port. And there's the challenge with new energy and hydrogen. Oh, I have to push the button. So, where are we? We are located, you can see it here on the picture, and then the best one is first on the right. You see that's the North Sea, not the Baltic Sea, but you can see we have, as Eemshaven, a more or less similar location as Klaipėda has in the Baltic Sea. Because we're very close to the North Sea, you can see it on the left, and you see there's a small line in between, and that's the deviation about the German waters, the Danish waters and the Dutch waters. And you see our position is the best for the German waters. And that means that we have to cooperate a lot with the Germans. So when we first started with the first projects coming up in 2008, 2009, the mayor visited Eemshaven and I was just there. So I told him, oh no, it was a her. I told her, well, there's a lot going on. And then she came into the port and she said, hey, you say this is good for the economy. I only see German license plates. Well, that's not how you think about it because it's a German wind farm installed by Germans. So we cannot say you cannot exclude your neighboring companies. And this is how we organized more or less the competition in the port because we also have German companies in the port. And at first stage, of course, the Dutch company says, hey, we do not like it. We have enough companies here. We don't need competition. But it benefits to the port. And you can see we have already done 18 wind farms were installed from Eemshaven. And 3 are under construction now. And I must say 3 construction wind farms, that's, well, you can't do a 4th because it's very crowded. You can see it on the right picture. There's monopiles lying. They're coming into the port. They're 1,500 tons. So I heard about the inland transport, about 480 tons, I believe. This is 1,500 tons. And the next generation is 2,000 tons. Well, and yeah, therefore you need also big cranes. And I saw also the picture of Klaipėda, where 21 hectares was allocated, I believe, for offshore wind. Well, I think that's the minimum. If you have to scale up, you have to come to 25 hectares. And then also without, let's say, barriers, no locks, no bridges, no power lines, because everything is getting bigger, heavier, longer, wider. You can see it on this picture. This is about what we think are the maritime needs to be an offshore wind port. With a draft, key length, you're very good in key length. I heard 22 kilometers. Well, I'm pretty jealous on that. jetties, and we have public jetties and private jetties. Public jetties is first come, first serve, but if you have private jetties, companies can make negotiations of that, and you can imagine that leading customers like Siemens Gamesa or Vestas, they want to be in the port all of the time. Well, Eemshaven is not in the city top 10 with ports, and that has also to do because we have no city. We are a port without a city. This means that is beneficial because you can operate 24 hours a day. And that's what companies like, because if a wind turbine is running down, they need to operate as soon as possible. And also the big vessels, if something is wrong in lashing or in rigging, they need support as soon as possible. No infrastructure restrictions, told you. Heavy load keys, I saw you planned one for 40 tons per square meters, then you will be fine. Near-kai jacking, you have floating devices and jacking devices that they have to put the legs on the soil. That's also tricky because they will penetrate because are heavy components, so it will also jeopardize your bottom, and if your bottom is different as, let's say, stone, it will also penetrate that, and that will create possible risks if another vessel is coming with different dimensions. And well, there you have to take care of that. In our, we have about 900 hectares in Eemshaven. On the east side, it's energy production, and on the west side are the offshore related sites, and that's 81 hectares. You see that are the blue ones, which are all companies and related to offshore wind. And well, again, a nice picture of that on the right-hand side. And here you see the many offshore-related companies, and of course, you see, for instance, a company, a Dutch company called Royal Wagenborg. They were the first. They are historically based in Eemshaven and Delfzijl. And then for the German projects, Bush Terminal came. You see Bush with the orange thing, and you see there a jack-up vessel. That's not the Fred Olsen, but it's, I believe it's the Sea-Jack Skiller. But then Wagenborg says, hey, we don't need competition, we can do it. But then, yeah, the German wind farm said, yeah, we want to do business with the German company. So they came, and after last year, when Bush was there and Wagenborg, then Jan de Nul wanted to do a next project. And Jan de Nul is a big Belgium install company also. Yeah, they're a very wide company, and they said, yeah, we want to do it on our own and not with the stevedoring company. So now also Jan de Nul is there, but now it means there is choice. So companies like to have choice, and you see the companies like Siemens Gamesa, also nice because we have 2 Siemens Gamesa in the port. I hope nobody's from Siemens Gamesa is in the audience. But we have 2 O&Ms after the installation of a wind farm, which takes about 18 months. You get 15 to 20 years operation and maintenance. And we have 2 wind farms which are from Siemens Gamesa. One is a German wind farm and one is a Dutch wind farm. And they're in the same location, but there's a wall in between the Dutch part and the German part. And well, that can happen, but also you have slow-moving parts. And slow-moving parts hardly have to be replaced, but they have 2 spare lying, because one is for the German wind farm and one is for the Dutch wind farm. So there's still a lot to improve in, let's say, the supply chain. But the supply chain, you can see here are Amasis is a Dutch company with special vessels. Van Oort is there, Rely on Nutec is a Danish company doing training. And all these companies will come to your port if you have sufficient projects here. So if you are able to have the first project, which is always the most difficult, then you are able to get the second project, and then companies will come. Because if they, for instance, they come from Palanga and they have to drive 3 times a week to Klaipėda to do their business. Well, they might settle here and then they will be able to do 4 times a week the same project or business. So that is how it works in Eemshaven. Therefore, we have a lot of companies here. Here you see the supply chain, what we call. So we have 4 companies with keys, like stevedoring companies, but then mostly related to offshore wind. 2 with private jetties, and you have the port with public jetties, and you see a lot of companies, some familiar names, some regional names for projects coming to the port. And of course, you have to team up with other clusters because you can never do it on your own. So I would advise to team up also with probably other ports. And I know then you have to cross the border, but anyway, it's good to think about it. We team up with the NNOW, which is above this regional. Dutch is NVEA. Holland Home of Wind is the export club. We are a member of Wind Europe in Brussels, and also a member of the Offshore Wind Ports platform. We do a lot of innovation because in our region, and that's also a possibility for Klaipėda, the jobs in our region are different as in other regions in Holland because we have this energy cluster. So there are other people, other students need, so we train a lot of people. No, we do not train them, but we give opportunities to train in the port. And also the companies, they are willing to have, let's say, traineeships in the port, actual, so they can see whether their jobs are nice for the future. We receive a lot of delegations. You see it, one from Brazil, and from in November there's the offshore energy in Amsterdam, also by the Dutch government, always arranged. And then one of the trips is always to Eemshaven. And here you see werken in the Eemshaven. That's nice because Eemshaven is very remote without a village. You have to bring people to the port. And the public, the trains and buses, well, they are not that good. So we arrange that themselves together with the companies, because a crane driver can be at company A at Monday and at company B at Tuesday. Now, this is the challenge for every port who is trying to go into offshore wind installation. You see here underneath the monopile with a lot of axles under it, because otherwise it cannot be transported. And that's going through the port. That means also in your port it must be obstacle-free, so you can have good connections. But if you have roundabouts or bridges or locks or whatever, it's hard to get in or to get out of the port. Well, this is remarkable. We also collaborate with a lot of ports. The only differentiation is that in Wind Europe, in Brussels, the UK is not considered a member state anymore. But in the North Sea region, we consider as ports that the UK is also an important port for us. So therefore, in this picture, also Hull is included. Yeah, and what I need to say more, it was a subject all day. The port are key, close to the water, because that's how a port is. But operation and maintenance, offshore wind farms, installation, assembly, but also the future of converting hydrogen to renewable assets. And yeah, I would advise you to seek your competitor and see what you can team up together to be successful in this region. If you have any questions, you can mail, phone, or ask me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erik.